Welcome to the Creation Innovation Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth King. Together, we'll have conversations with incredible human beings who have taken their creative outlet and turned it into something innovative. From people leaving the corporate world to be 8-figure entrepreneurs to people who have created books, created a family, or just creating to have fun in the world. We are all in a journey to create something amazing in our lives, and I hope that you find some inspiration of your own here. This is the Creation Innovation Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Creation Innovation. I'm really excited today to talk to Ashley Baumann. Am I saying your name right, Ashley?
Yep, Baumann. Yep.
Baumann. Okay. She's a wife, a mom, a former marketing manager who left her corporate career to pursue virtual fitness and wellness coaching and building her brand online. She went on to launch her podcast, Be Ambitious, which focuses on helping women find and create a fulfilling career and live an empowered and authentic life. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here and to chat about this because I think it's a topic that so many women kind of struggle with that are in corporate life and now getting on to transitioning to the next part of their journey, which is motherhood and how that looks. I also love that you use the word empowered. That's my favorite quote: empowered women, empower women, empower women. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. And yes, I'm so passionate about this topic. I was passionate about this even before becoming a mom, of just empowering other women with just the journey that I've been on the last, I would say 10 years, honestly. And then becoming a mom, being even more focused on helping mothers feel that way as well and navigate motherhood and careers and goals and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've also been in corporate for 25 years and I still have a business that works in corporate marketing as well. And because I was single, no kids from 30 to 40, it was really interesting because I never really thought too much about those working moms that were in the corporate world. I just kind of like, we're all heads down doing our thing. I was also a life coach at the time. So I knew that I had more flexibility, of course, than these moms did, but I really didn't quite get my head around like what that meant to manage your job, manage your house, manage your little people, all the things. And I think it wasn't until I remember having my first baby and working at my desk with my baby in my arms, like one hand typing, realizing like, oh, this is a whole different ball game, right? Like life as we knew it in a corporate sense has now flipped on its head, essentially. Did you already have children when you were still in corporate, or had you left already?
No, I left, the story goes, the way it all worked out was actually my husband and I both left our careers. He started his own company. I was doing the health and fitness coaching part-time when I was in corporate, and I decided I didn't want to do that going forward. I really wanted to just own my schedule, own my time. We were thinking about starting a family soon too. So we were already talking about that and just like daycare costs and all these things. And I wasn't fulfilled in my corporate career anymore either. So I didn't want to keep pursuing that. So I quit. My last day was on my 30th birthday, and then had my daughter a year and a half later. So it was kind of like part of the plan. But I will say, even with obviously not being in corporate anymore, once I had a child, it's been she's just turned 3. So the last 3.5 years, balancing everything while having a child is completely different than what I expected.
Yeah.
And it's been a learning curve for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing that you guys had the foresight to have the plan to already see how the chips would lay and where you guys wanted to go and all that. So going from there to getting a regular paycheck to then doing your own business, and for your husband for that matter, right? So to have two people go from regular paychecks to kind of the side hustle turn real hustle, how was that for you guys?
It was a little scary that first year. I'll be 100% honest. We had some struggles. We had some moments where we were like, maybe we should have not done this at the same time kind of thing. And obviously hindsight is 2020, but I think whenever you pursue something different, especially as an entrepreneur, you are going to have, it's going to take a few years to really grow and to see the profit. And so, yeah, we knew it was going to be some struggles and sometimes where it was going to be tight, money was going to be tight and whatnot. But we never gave up on that dream and we never stopped. And 3 years later, we're in a much better position financially. We've seen a lot of success. And so but I want to be honest, that first year was a lot of stress we knew it was the right decision. We never wanted to go back to our corporate careers. We never have thought that this was the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. Like once you know this is what you're meant to do and you're doing the thing that's best for you and your family and your career, you are willing to handle the hard times and the stress. And so I'm glad we stuck with it because we're seeing the other side of that now. And it
Yeah.
was.
And I think that's really important to emphasize for people that are, whether they're leaving corporate or starting their own thing, maybe they're already a stay-at-home mom and they're deciding to start a business. Um, they say it's at least 2 years to really kind of see that profit come to fruition. And when you're in that and you don't see that financial reward coming back at you, I always kind of say it's like being on a diet. If you're starting a diet and you see the weight loss starting or the working out and you can see your body changing, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to stay motivated to do this, right? But if you're not seeing any of those results, it's really hard to stay motivated. And I think that's where it is when you find that passion of yours, whether you're talking to a wall and nobody's listening or whatever, just reminding yourself that this is a long game and you're in it for the marathon run, that will come around. And it's we are in a society that wants that instant gratification, right? We think, okay, I'm going to go do this.
Exactly.
I have this plan. I've seen a lot of other people that are super successful at doing this. I'm super motivated. And then you're like, wah, wah, wah. It's not happening the way that I thought it was, right? So I love that you guys just kind of kept your eye on that target of this is really what we want to do, because I think I see it so much where people are like, but it's not working. I'm like, you got to give it time, right? It's like growing that flower, having the acorn turn into the oak tree. It needs some time to nurture so that it can flourish and actually be what you want it to be.
100%. That is, you hit the nail on the head. It's because we like you said, with the instant gratification, we want to see results immediately. And I think having a health and fitness background as well, I have seen that where I know that it takes time to get the results that I want, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that was always, obviously there were days where it was hard to see that and remind yourself of that this is going to be worth it and it's going to get better and whatnot. But yes, everything worth having is going to take some time, extra time than you think, and more sacrifice than you think, but it's 100% worth it. So keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah. And how have you navigated having your own business and being a mom and balancing that schedule, so to speak, that you kind of touched on initially?
Yeah, so that has been, I actually, as my daughter's gotten older, it's been harder. I actually found that her first year of life, when she was a baby, she was sleeping so much that I actually was getting way more done. It was
Yeah.
actually easier for me. The first year was actually easier for me. And I know that's not the same for everyone. As she's gotten older, more active and whatnot, that's been harder for me to balance everything and stay on top of everything. But what I kind of have done, and obviously everyone's situation is different, what they're able to do and what they're not able to do. But for me is I've just changed my goals a little bit. I've changed my expectations because I do, and I am, and I've been doing this and happy with it. I am first and foremost a stay-at-home mom, but I am a mom that does pursue goals and that does have passions and projects and a career as well. It's just kind of shifted a little bit where my career has taken second place over motherhood, and that's okay for now. It's a season.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want moms to know is like, that's okay. Like, you don't have to give it up. You don't have to be all or nothing kind of thing. So for
Yeah.
me, our family, for us, our family is our daycare. So we have family very close to us, grandparents that watch my daughter. So
Nice.
anytime I have anything to do with podcasting, she's at one of the grandparents' houses. Anytime I need to get caught up on projects and work, that's where she goes. Now, what I want to say is this is something that you need to do if you are kind of doing a part-time. I would say my career is part-time right now, but I'm totally fine with that because I'm still pursuing my goals. I'm still growing and I'm still changing people's lives and impacting them and helping them. So for me, it's whenever I have those days that she is not with me, my daughter's not with me, I am maximizing that time. So I always have a to-do list that I follow. I batch content. Social media is a huge factor for me. I'm always on social media. So I batch all of posts, reels, content, podcast recordings, podcast editing. It's all going down when I'm able to do that when I'm by myself. I also, they always say, try and do your IPAs, your income producing activities first, get those done and out of the way, focus on those. Another thing that I have not been able to do as much because I'm pregnant right now, and actually this pregnancy has taken a lot out of me. It's been a good pregnancy, but I'm just exhausted all the time. But prior to this pregnancy, I was able to do a lot at night after my daughter went to bed. You got to make some sacrifices too. You
Yeah.
got to do stuff during nap time. Got to get up earlier. I'm always trying to get up before my kids,
Mhm.
and even my husband too.
I always joke about that because people are always saying that work late and or earlier. And I'm like, I had 3 under 3 and we're still kind of in it as far as the sleeping. I'm like, clearly you don't have kids that don't sleep through the night because you are getting every last ounce of sleep that you can in the morning
Yes.
because they're awake at like 5:30 and they've been awake through the night. So it's just painful. And but to add on to that, so God bless for anybody who does have sleeping children through the night.
Right.
Trust me, like send your good vibes my way. We've done all the sleep consultants and everything, but still. Um, but I think that you touched on a word expectation. And I think having that realistic expectation for yourself and your family and
Mhm.
your partner, whoever is in your life, to say, this is what it is. And that expectation can change weekly, daily, monthly, whatever, right? And tap yourself out where you feel comfortable versus what you think the expectation is of you, right? And I think we put
Yes.
the expectation, at least for myself, I put the highest expectation for myself, right? 2 businesses, 3 kids, my husband, all the things. And I'm at a point where I need to slow down to speed up because it is a lot. And we tend to feel that we have to do it all, right? And I think you're putting such a good message out there that you still can do it all. It's just how do you organize that for yourself? And it's different for everybody based on what their situation is. Some people don't have family close or
Right.
whatever it is. And I think working backwards from there and backwards from what your budget is, right? So if you are able to work part-time, that's amazing. And what does that realistically look like? Because I think people have this idea in their head of, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, but they don't really map it out fully of like, what does that
Exactly.
mean? You have to do your own admin stuff. You have to, there's so much more that goes into it. Hold on, I'm just going to pause real quick because that phone's ringing. Let's, okay. So back to the expectation for yourself. And when you start as an entrepreneur, knowing all of the things that go into that as far as admin and batching the content and marketing yourself and all of the things. If you want to take a course yourself in any of those places, how are you organizing your time to make that happen? But I do think that it's such a beautiful place that we're in the world now that you have the ability to have that as a viable option to contribute to your lifestyle, whether it's full
Yeah.
time or part time, which before it didn't used to be as flexible, I feel like, as it is now.
Exactly. And that's why I was a part of network marketing is what I originally was doing years ago. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I got into it, because of the flexibility, the option to do it virtually, to be able to do it on my schedule. And there's so many options out there for women, for moms right now. I mean, they could do an Etsy shop. They could be an influencer on social media and do influencer marketing. They could work with brands and collaborate. They could do, obviously, I already mentioned network marketing. They could do so many different things, podcasting as well. And these are things that you can do part-time and still generate income and see results. And that's the thing. I feel that as long as women know they have these options, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. Could I be making 7 figures? Sure. But then I would have to have my kids in daycare 5 days a week. And that's just not what I want to do right now. And that's okay. But I
Yeah.
can still have a career that generates income and that I'm passionate about and that fulfills me, with it being part-time, with a part-time income. I just want moms to know that it's, again, not all or nothing. You can do it your way and be happy doing it that way too, and seeing success. And maybe once the kids are both in school full-time, it's, you're going full-time with your career again.
Yeah. There's the opportunities are endless, as well as I want to add to that, having a side hustle on the side of your corporate job. Maybe you need the benefits of your corporate job, and there's absolutely, I get that. There's no shame in that, So
Right.
if you have the time that you can carve out to do something that you're passionate about and lead with your heart in something while still getting the paycheck and the benefits from your corporate job, do that. And then just give
Yes.
yourself that runway of a time frame of whether that's a year or 6 months or whatever, of knowing, okay, we're going to bank X amount of funds so that we have the ability to have a little bit of a cushion before we do it, or whatever works for you. I think that again, it's so cool that there's so many options now for people to live passionately about what it is that they're doing and help people in the meantime.
Exactly. I agree 100%.
So let's talk about your podcast. I love the title of it, Be Ambitious, because it just is like a straight up call to action for everybody who's listening, right? And I love that. So, how did you come to name it that, first of all?
So, with the whole story of the podcast, I've been listening to podcasts forever. I can't even remember. I was listening to podcasts before many people were listening to them, and I loved them. I've always loved them. I still listen to them weekly. And I thought about this years ago, like, oh, I want to start my own. I would love to. But of course, fear got in the way, excuses got in the way. But it just kept coming back. Every year I would get that nudge, like, I should do this, I should do this. And I finally did. I honestly think my daughter being, I think she was 1 years old when I launched it 2 years ago. And it was more so being like showing her, I want to always show her that you can go after your dreams and goals and start something new, even when you're afraid, and see how it goes. So what I did was naming it. I figured out who I wanted this podcast to be for first. So I knew that I wanted my audience and who I had on the topics to be focused on women, not just moms, but all women.
Mhm.
And so I figured that out first. And then I figured out I want to really highlight women business owners and get them on the podcast to share their stories. I'm always so inspired by people's stories of adversity and challenge and how they've started something and what they're passionate about. So I figured that out too. And then I used a big whiteboard and I wrote down all the attributes and personality traits of who the listener would be.
Yeah.
And so I wrote ambitious, I wrote, authentic and empowered, all these things. So I was playing with all of those names and those words. And I don't know, it just stuck out to me. I think visually, I'm a visual person too. So seeing the words all on the whiteboard, I kind of put it together. And then someone actually was like, be ambitious is your initial, like I'm AB
Oh,
is like my initials, but backwards. And I wanted it to be short and concise. I don't know. It fit.
yeah.
And it stuck, and I'm really glad I went with that.
Yeah, it's great. It's so kind of what you're talking about with the whiteboard, brainstorming is what we talk about in the Fertility Coach Academy with finding your ideal client avatar, right? What what is she like? What is her personality? Where does she go? What does she shop? Where does she, all of those things to hone in on where they are, how we get them, right? So those people are now attracted to your podcast because, oh, I want to be ambitious, or I am ambitious, or, I hope to be ambitious. So I think that's really great. Tell us a little bit about the content that you provide on your podcast.
Yeah, so we do solo episodes. So that's just me kind of doing more like mindset, empowering, inspiring, and helpful tips for women. And then we do interviews with business owners. You're going to be a guest
Yes,
coming
I can't
up.
wait.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And I try to just share women in all different industries, doing all different things. Obviously, there is a lot of health in there because I just think health and wellness is so important. So we've had nutrition coaches and doctors and whatnot, and migraine health. And you're going to be talking about fertility. I've had other people come on that help with more like mom content. So I actually have a sleep specialist coming on soon to talk about sleep, which
Yeah.
we kind of already were talking about and mentioning, and stuff like that. But then I have a calligraphist who is an artist who is talking about that. I have business coaches and photographers on. So, it all ties into not only their business story, but they give their expertise. So there's always tips that no matter what industry you're in, you can use to implement in your business. But then it's also, especially if they're a mom, I do ask them about motherhood and how they're balancing it all, how they're getting it done. Cause I want people to see the differences. Some people are full-time, some people aren't, some people are just starting out, and some people have been doing their business for several years and are very successful. But it's really, I want women to be listening to this at home. If they've thought about doing something but they're afraid, if they are just starting out and they need extra advice and encouragement, if there's someone who's seasoned but they're looking to maybe pivot or do something different or maybe scale back. Those are all the women that I thought about when I started this podcast. And that's who I feature. I feature just all different topics, industries, situations, and whatnot.
That's awesome. Again, I think the ability for you and your business too, that you have so many different dimensions of it. And the podcast is just, I always say too, it's one thing under the umbrella, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can put yourself out in the world. And I think podcasting is a really great way if you feel that you are aligned with that. And I think also being aligned with something in what you do from your business perspective is so important, because we should on ourselves all the time of like, I should do this, and then I should do that, and I should do that. And my opinion is just no, go where your heart leads you. Do what you feel aligned with, because from a mental, spiritual perspective, it will always catch up to you if you're doing something that doesn't feel in alignment. And I think for what you're doing, you can really tell that passion in all the things and aspects and places that you show up. And it really shows when people do that. Don't you agree?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I hear a lot from my guests as well, is it was something that they thought about. Like I said, the podcast, I kept thinking about it. I kept wanting to do it, and it kept getting that nudge, and that nudge is never going to go away until you finally do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also if you're, like you kind of said, if you're the opposite side where you're in something career wise that isn't meant for you, you're going to constantly feel you're going to feel negative, bogged down. You're going to feel, just maybe unfulfilled, unhappy. And it's because you're doing something that you're not meant to do anymore as well. And you got to listen to that. You got to listen to
Yeah.
that. We have the intuition inside of us that we need to follow.
Exactly. I touch on that so much because I think so many people lose sight of that, especially when you're in a fertility journey, because your mind is so consumed with like, when am I ovulating? How is this going to work? When am I going to get pregnant? How, why isn't it working? Whatever. And you get so distracted from your own intuition and that nudge, or I say, are you expanding or contracting? So if you're
Mm.
even something that you're going to eat, right? Do you feel a little bit of expansion in your body, or do you feel that tightening up or contracting? That's your body's intuition telling you, no, probably not a good idea, or a person you're going to see, or a place you're going to go. For me, it's hotel rooms. I rarely ever stay in the same hotel room that I'm assigned to, because I go in and I feel like, does this feel expansive or contracting to me. And I know it sounds silly, but I really try to be in alignment with everything and everyone that I am in contact with, because it does affect me and I take on that energy the rest of the time. So I think really doing whatever you can to circle back to your intuition, or maybe you want to call it the nudge or whatever feels right for you, but just take a second and like listen for that and start playing that game with yourself of, is this what I'm supposed to be doing, or where I'm going, or what I'm eating, or is this the right workout for me even, right? I think working out, and you know this as a health coach, so many of us, I mean, I used to spend hours on a treadmill, like 2 hours a day at one point, and doing my weight training, whatever, on whatever. Like now I hear people doing that. I'm like, oh, it's so painful. Like, don't do it. But we all have to go through our own journey. But now I know the contraction for me in that is so huge, because I know that's just not in alignment with what is right for me anymore. But I think sometimes we get overridden by what we think we should do, right?
Oh
Well,
yeah.
I should be healthy and working out X amount if I want to lose weight, or I want to run the marathon, or whatever it is your goal is, and I
Yeah, I
think
think
just going back to listen to your body.
I agree. It's having that self-awareness. That's something that I really worked on a lot. And I want to encourage everyone to really figure out what you like, be self-aware enough to know when things aren't right. Another thing that randomly popped in my head just now, that it's even with friendships and relationships. If
Yeah.
you feel that was a huge factor for me a few years ago, and I figured that out, and I've used that kind of as a self-awareness tool for other things like career and whatnot, and working out and all that, is how you feel afterwards. Do you feel drained? Do you feel even before? When I was hanging out with the wrong people that I could not be 100% myself around, I would get super anxious beforehand
Totally.
going to see them. I would dread it. I
Same.
would be stressed out. And then I would feel depleted afterwards as well. I would feel sometimes even bad about myself. Now I only spend time with the people that matter to me, that I can be myself around, that build me up, that we build each other up. And I have really kind of minimized like who I spend time with. Because again, also once you become a mom, once you get older, you just have unlimited, you have limited, not unlimited. You have a very limited amount of time anyways to spend with people. So you want to spend it with the right people. And I
Yeah.
would realize now when I spend time with people, it's the right people, and I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm energized after. I feel awesome after. I feel like I just was, empowered after as well. And that's
Yeah.
something to keep in mind with relationships, fitness, with your career. You can really be self-aware of your energy and how you feel before and after too.
Yeah, could not agree with you more. I know I've gone through the same thing with people, and then I'm like, why do I feel this way every time? I'm not an anxious person, but getting ready for that to see those people, I'd be like, doesn't feel good, and that's literally, I just don't, same as you, I don't do it anymore. And then how great is it though, to your point, like when you hang out with people that you're like, you just want more, like you leave wanting more of those people that have such good energy. So
Yes.
yes, thank you for bringing that up. And thank you again for being here today. I can't wait to be on your podcast as well. And congrats on your little baby boy coming soon.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited for our conversation. I know you're going to be so helpful to our audience and inspiring. And I loved this conversation today too.
Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Creation Innovation Podcast. Make sure to follow us on Spotify for free episodes and subscribe to the Creation Innovation Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you choose to get your podcast. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening for a chance to receive a special gift. Yes, we actually do send out gifts. It's my favorite thing to do. So visit us at elizabethking.com/creation innovation for more information on how to enter. Every review counts, and we are so grateful. You can follow me at the official Elizabeth King on Instagram or TikTok. Until next time.